Welcome to Lunchbox Sociables, where we talk all things music, music related, music adjacent, and sometimes nothing to do with music at all. Today I'm going to continue on with the Tascam DP-24 Portastudio Deep Dive Part 2. So in Part 1, as a recap, we talked about the functions and the features and the menus and the buttons and the general language of the console. And now in Part 2, I am going to show you how I use it for recording and best practices and all the tips and tricks and cautions that I have learned along the way. I've had a unit, one of these units since 2015, so I have over 10 years of experience with these DP-24s. In fact, I'm on my second unit because I wore out some of the buttons on the first unit. In fact, I think a few of the buttons on the second unit are starting to get a little wonky. I'm going to make the assumption that you've either watched Part 1 or that you have one of these units, because I don't want to repeat too many things from the Part 1. I don't go into virtual tracks, and I don't go into bounce, and I've explained why in Part 1. And if you have one of the older units that has the CD player, make sure you're at the latest firmware, because a lot of issues were resolved by upgrading the firmware with the earlier units. So with that, let's get started. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Back in Part 1, I was explaining some productions. We actually did a whole album on with the Tascam DP-24. We recorded and mixed everything on board, no external effects whatsoever, and yeah, that was back in 2017. All right, now let's get started. Regardless of the drums recording method or the mixing method I'll use, all my productions pretty much start out the same way. So tip number 1 is to create a template. And I have a template that I know I use that all the, my lead vocals always go to input E. The mic'd acoustic guitar always goes to F. The bass goes to C. The guitars go to H. And that way, once I set up like the EQ of the inputs and the compression on those inputs, sometimes different dynamics, I might be using noise reduction, all of that, I always, that's always going to be there. It's always going to be the same if I set them up like that. And then I'll go right into like a second tip. Whatever is your last production, usually my last production is always the one that always has the most tinkering. I'm always tweaking and tinkering, going, oh yeah, I finally really have that sound really good. So, or if it's a one that I know I did really good, I bring that one up, and while that one is loaded on the machine, I go into Create. Now when you go into Create, it takes the settings of the current production. So this is very time saving. If you like all the settings that you have of a song and you create a song while that one is still loaded, create a new song, it'll take all those settings. That tip alone is worth the price of this podcast. Okay, so with a few pushes of a buttons, you're all ready to go. You're all set up. And really that's tip number 3 is it also takes all the track settings. So if you have, if you always are, and I always like my acoustic guitar is always on 9. Like the vocals are always on certain tracks. The bass is always on 13. And if you've got those set up like panning and the reverb, it takes on all those settings as well. So it's very handy if you are always using the Tascam for your own productions. Now it's maybe a little bit different if you're recording other people, if they're completely different type setups. But even if they are similar, you go, okay, I know that's the input that I'm going to use for this, that's input I'm going to use for that and for that track. So if you create yourself some templates, you'll be able to save a lot of time. Okay, creating a song. I used when I create a song, I use 24-bit and 48K just for the best sound quality. I know it chews up a little bit more space, but that's okay. I'd rather have the best sound quality. You name your song, but you can go back and rename a song. You can go edit the name after, but just keep in mind that once you make a mix and then you connect the Tascam to your PC, and you're looking at the mixes, it keeps all those other names, so it can get kind of messy if you're constantly renaming your song. So I tried not to be renaming the song, but I always come up with just a short word, a version number, and sometimes I work a date into it, and then I leave it like that. So now you're all set. You'll have it's a 24 track, but in some ways I like to think of it as 18 tracks, because then you have those stereo tracks. Now you can record separate things, left and right on those that stereo track. You can have one mic going to left, one mic going to right, the way you set up through the assign button. But keep in mind, you still only have the one fader. You still have the one set of effects and things. So it's not 24 track mono. You got 12 tracks mono, 6 track stereo, and so you're kind of tied to some degree. So I think of it as a 18 track recorder. You can always record, export that off, and then hold on to that file. And if you're going to, especially because I do that because I'm mixing them in Pro Tools. But if you're going to mix on the machine, I kind of think of it more of as 18 track. Okay. So now I've already worked out my click tempo, so I'm not going to go into that. But I do use a drum machine, and I record the click onto track 24. I know it's a stereo track, and I'm using up 2 right there, but I'm just so used to using it on 24. The reason why I use the drum machine, as I said in part 1, I export the click track because I want that timing, the click to be the timing that goes along with all the WAV files for mixing, and because my drum machine, the TR-707, has the strobing red LEDs, so I can kind of keep an eye on the bars where I am in the song for to be playing the guitar with. You could just record the drum machine down, but and then do that first and then record on top of that. I just like doing it at the same time. I keep with the drum machine, I keep it very simple. Just a kick drum, snare, very simple beat. Just kick, snare, and tick 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 with the hi-hat. Sometimes I don't even have the hi-hat, so I have the kick for the beat, the snare for the offbeat, the hi-hat for the eighth notes, and then the click is already there as the quarter notes. And these are very handy for timing, especially if you're going to record percussion and you go, oh, the percussion is not quite right, and you go and you can verify the shaker to the offbeat, or the to the beat, and the tambourine to the offbeat, or whatever. But I like having those. Now you can have like I also have a beat buddy that has a real drummer, like a whole kit being played, but then you can't separate all the sounds when you're using like the waveform. I always use the jog waveform function, and you can't separate. But when you have them separate, I can just go and hit the jog play button, and then look at the waveform, find it, and go, yeah, that's exactly where the guitar needs to be, or that's exactly where that vocal or percussion or whatever to the timing. Okay, let me catch my breath. Okay, so regardless if you are recording drums or a click track or not, you are going to be recording a scratch vocal instrument track, because that's the foundation. That's what everyone uses to follow along with in the song to do all their parts. So I always do a vocal guitar track for the scratch, and then I immediately start redoing the acoustic, redoing the vocals, adding electric guitar. So for example, recording the electric guitar, I use the locate punch in and out feature to get my starting spots, my stopping spots. Then I arm the track where the guitar is going to be. I'll hit the auto punch, then verify the roll-in out time, and then hit record. The song will start. At the roll-in time previous to where it's going to punch in, the record button will be flashing, and then as soon as it hits that spot, it will go solid while it is recording, and then when it hits the punch out spot, it'll go back to flashing. You'll hear a little bit of playback while that's the roll out time that you've set, and then it will stop. Now, if you're using the auto punch feature, and you hit the redo. Now I do redo a lot. Undo, redo. I'm constantly doing that. So be very careful if you're doing that and you accidentally hit the mix down mastering button. That's why I have this little rubber cover over that, because bad things happen. You might have to restart, like power on and off the machine. Just bad things happen if you accidentally hit that button. Okay. So most of the punch in and outs, and when I need to find the exact spot where I need to be, I will get close using the rewind or fast forward or even the jog wheel, and then I go into jog play, and you'll see the waveform. Then I can match it up with like a click track, or match it up with something else. But I'm just looking at the waveform. You can make the waveform bigger, smaller using the cursor buttons. But very important, if you are using this feature, use the jog wheel to move the waveform left or right. Don't use the rewind or the fast forward buttons. It can't keep up. So if you you're in waveform, you go, I'm going to just go real fast backwards. It can't keep up drawing it and just loses its little marbles, and it'll just freeze, and you are going to be powering it on and off, and whatever you've been working on is probably lost. Now the whole song's not lost, but just that last bit has been lost. Okay, so don't use those buttons. Don't use rewind, fast forward in the jog play. Use the wheel to move back and forth. All right. All right, a couple more points on the punch in and out. Sometimes when you're recording, you'll hear this little blip at the end of a recording, and I'm not sure what causes that, but you hear this little blip, and you can use the punch in and out along with the track edit using the silence function, and put some silence in that spot. But just know if you hear that little blip, if there's something else starting right after it, it might be tricky, because the in and out it has to be something like, I don't know, it's like 0.2 or half of a second. There is a minimum in and out time that if you try to make that too tight, it'll say no, it needs to be that spot needs to be bigger. But I will, every once in a while I hear those little blips, and usually I'm always recording left to right anyway, and it's not a big deal. So what I mean by recording left to right is I'll at my starting spot, I'll work along to a verse or chorus or what have you, and I'll stop, and then I verify that's okay before moving on, and then I just keep on going. And if I hear that little blip, that little stop blip, I just start my punch in just before it, so that in the next section of recording, we'll re-record over top of that anyway. So like, remember, if you are using a punch in and out feature and you make a mistake, you can just stop it right there. Whatever you're recording is recorded, but you don't have to get all the way to the end. You can just stop it. So if I'm doing a whole track, I'll just go along until I made a little mistake. I'll stop right there, find my spot, then kind of continue on. So my punch out spot is always at the end of the song, and it's only my punch in that I keep moving along left to right. You can always clean out a track. If it is getting messy, you can record over top and punch it out as need be, knowing that every recorded section is a separate file that the machine needs to keep track of, which leads me to a few more tips. Try not to have too many songs on your SD card. You can always back up and restore using the USB and PC, and it works really good. I back up all the time. And whenever I don't want to have to redo something, okay, I back it up, and then I do a full format on the SD card, and I bring back whatever songs that I want to work on. Although you can record 8 tracks at a time, you will no doubt get the read timeout error during recording. This is the machine trying to read what was recorded and write new stuff at the same time. So if this happens and you are super fast, you can hit the button to continue, and you might be okay. But verify after that it did record, because sometimes it won't. It'll have stopped recording with that read time out error. That's basically this little machine trying to grab all the stuff that's been recorded in all the little memory slots, and then and while it's recording in all these little cubbies on the SD card. So you're asking a lot of it, to do all that. So, by reducing the number of songs, keeping as much space as possible on the SD card to be able to have contiguous space, that helps it. And then, not using all 8 inputs. I know you're allowed to use 8 inputs, but I usually use 6, 7 max. I have got away with recording 8 at a time, but I find that 7, 6, and 7 is more the sweet spot. Okay, just remember, it's a $600 unit. You can only ask so much of it, and it's already doing an amazing job for $600. Be sure to save from time to time. Recording is one thing. When you hit record, that whatever's being recorded is saved, but not all your settings are saved. So if you are, change anything in the EQ, any dial that you've touched, if you end up if you lose power, those settings are gone. So from time to time, hit the save button, and that'll be good. You back up. I back up a song as soon as I don't want to. I know I've said this about 3 times now. I back up a song. I'm the king of backups. Using the USB and the PC is super easy. It looks like an external drive, and you can just go into the music folder and copy the song over. Before I back up, I usually go into menu and select the delete unused, and you'll see the size shrink as it gets rid of the stuff that's been overwritten, and tracks were cleaned out. I connect with the USB and copy the song over to my PC and rename it with a date for good management. You will see it copies a list of files, and there'll be 2 files at the top, and one is the song name if you've made a mix, and the other is a song name with the Z, ZZ, and that's the new mix. If you end up making a master, that one becomes the Z. You'll see that there's always 2, and that's where it gets messy if you've been renaming the song on the Tascam, because it'll always keep the original names, but it only keeps the last mix and last master. If you're just working with the same one, it only keeps the last one. So if you make a mix and you like it, that's not bad. Copy it, because then if you make another mix, that one gets written over. Okay. When you look at the song from the PC, you're going to see a whole whack of these files with like 8 digits, and do not touch these. I learned this the hard way. Do not touch these. You think, oh, I can clean up, clean up all the stuff I didn't need. No, you can really make a real mess. It's a Linux-based OS on it. If you want to delete anything, delete it from the Tascam. Delete tracks, delete songs. Don't delete anything from the PC. Just use the PC for importing, exporting mixes and the backing up of the song back and forth. So backing up and restoring back and forth like a whole song, that's that feature using the USB, but you can also use the Audio Depot for importing WAV files into the song. For example, we might record the drums somewhere else, and I have a WAV file. They have to be at the same 24-bit, they have to be at the 48K, or whatever the same settings are, okay, that you've created the song with. And then you use the PC to put them over into the Audio Depot, all right, and then you go into the song and you select that Audio Depot function, and it will tell you what tracks are free that you don't have anything on, and you can import that track into the song. So a couple of tips to remember is if you've recorded a stereo, you're importing a stereo file, it'll only allow you to put that into an empty stereo track, or same thing with mono. So 1 to 12 or 13 through 24, and it knows. So you might have to, and if that is the case, and you go, oh, there's no spot, you can just go and, if you've already saved it, you can save it and clean out a track and drop it in there. what I have found is there been times where it doesn't quite line up quite right. And that's where you can use it, go into track edit, and you can add, like move the whole song or move that track one way or the other a little bit to try and get it to line up. It's pretty tricky. Hopefully that, when you've got it, it starts right from 000 and it'll be okay, but it can be a little bit tricky. Okay, so one last time. Audio Depot is for importing tracks, and the importing and exporting of songs or mixes, that's done with your Windows file management. Okay, so there's two different methods. Now, on the topic of exporting songs or tracks to get mixed elsewhere, I make WAV files of per track. So each track becomes a mix. So I'll start my start-stop points from 00 to wherever. I go into mix mode. I mute all the tracks except for the one track I'm making a mix of. I select that track. I go into the mixer. I turn off the EQ, pan center, effects to off. The master faders maximum. I play the song and I try and bring it up so it's always up into the green. So I'm using the fader of just that track, get it up into the green without hitting the red. I hit record, and now I have made a mix, like a song mix, basically a song mix, but with only of the one track. So then I just repeat that, for all the X number of tracks that I want to export. You connect back up to your PC. I copy each one over at a time, rename it because it's going to have the song name, but it's just really just the snare drum or the acoustic guitar. So I rename it with the song name, the instrument, the date, and I even put in the T7 for the track number. All right. Now this does open up endless possibilities. It's almost like the virtual tracks, because there are times where I go, oh, I need a few more tracks. The song's getting too big. But I know I'm going to be mixing this off, like not mixing it on the task. I'm going to be mixing it elsewhere, so I can free up other I can copy them over, save them, and then clean out that track, and I have that track now available to record other things. So even though it's a 24 track, sometimes I've brought more than 24 mixes to get mixed. All right, whew, that was a lot. Now, my method of recording drums on the Tascam, the actual way I record drums, I've done that on another podcast, but my way of doing it with file management, when I'm exporting everything to be mixed elsewhere, is I've record everything on the Tascam. I bring it over onto the PC. I've done a nice backup. I rename it to the song name _ drums. Bring it back onto file it back onto the Tascam, and then I just go and delete tracks, clean out tracks I'm going to need for the drum. So I always want to save the click track. I'm saving a guitar track, a vocal track, the bass track, maybe a backup vocal or something, maybe another guitar track, and then I clean off everything else for the drums, and now I save that, bring it back onto the PC, and then just keep renaming it, take 1, take 2, take 3, take 4, and then bring them all back onto the Tascam. So sitting there on recording day or for the drums is a bunch of songs with take 1, take 2, and they're all with those tracks empty, and then just make recordings. Now, just remember, each one of those, I'm going to have to make a mix of the kick drum. Then I make a mix of just the snare drum, and then I make a mix of. So there's where if you're going to use up all 8 on your kit, there's a lot of mixes, and especially if you're going to go and want to do the 6 good the takes that the drummer made, so that's where it gets handy to keep the number of takes to a minimum and the number of inputs that you use to record the kit with to a minimum, because you're going to have to go and make mixes of all that, and that gets kind of it's pretty laborious at some point. Whew. So I've already said that I don't use virtual tracks because it just doesn't suit my personality type. And I don't use the bounce function because I want to be able to not have any commitment. I have used the mastering function a few times. It's pretty I find it complicated, and I'm always thinking this is a $600 unit. It's doing a great job of recording. It's giving me a few decent dynamic effects for compression and things that I can use during the recording. How much how good can the mastering electronics be? And I just want the mastering done by a professional. I don't want to do mastering. I have done it, and all I find is that the mastering just makes the song loud. I don't know. There's it's an art form to do mastering. So no, I don't do mastering on this machine. You can if you want. You can just it's just the older model had an extra feature, but the newer model only has EQ and compression. So you can you go into the EQ, and it's it's the EQ for the whole song. That could be handy. The compression, yeah, there's a library of different stock settings you can go into. It just there's a lot there. There's a lot of adjustments to be made. I just don't want that responsibility. So I'd rather have someone who knows mastering inside and out doing the mastering. But you can play with it, and you'll always have the mix and a master. So you can do the mix, you can do a mastering, listen to it. You don't like it, you can always just remaster it again. You're still always going to have that mix. Well, that brings us to the end of this Tascam DP-24 deep dive. I hope that you got some valuable information that you can use for your own recording. If there's something that you would like to know, reach out to me via the comments section. I've got over an hour of data here, hour of recording, so I'm going to have to cull that down to about 25 minutes worth, and hopefully it's all concise. And thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Have a good day. Bye-bye.